Welcome to our new space at 9 Berry Street. Our opening show is Billy Apple and Braco Dimitrijević, who were both early conceptual art pioneers. So let's go and see the show now. The show is divided between the two artists. Billy Apple, who was born in New Zealand, came to England in the late 50s and studied as a postgraduate at the Royal College, where he met, amongst other people, David Hockney. And then in 1963, he went to New York and stayed in New York till the mid-90s, when he went back to New Zealand. So we start over here. He was having dinner with Dick Smith on the last Thursday of November in 1963, when they were deciding what name to change, a name change, and he came up with Billy Apple. Sadly, the bit of paper where they wrote all the possible names has been lost since then, but it was all rather opportune that he chose Apple, not knowing that he was going to go to New York, firstly, and secondly, that it actually was Thanksgiving Day. Probably had no idea what Thanksgiving was. One of the things he also did in '62, I think along with Hockney, became a blonde. And so these works, this is really the charting of going blonde. And then this is the larger version of it, where he was Lady Clairol was his colouring of choice. And then he had, at one stage, this is in New York, where he is as a bandit, but these early ones are all London. This piece, which I love, is, it's a sort of pun on the letter in the bottle. So he put this box of matches into the bottle and then threw it into the sea, I think at Brighton. And see, these are 3 photographs of it coming ashore, as it were. This English, I think this is the last English piece in the show, which I think is brilliant, of the cigarette and the single P, and then the can and the packet of cigarettes. These ones are all New York, where you think of sort of what Wegman and all the rest were doing. It's rather a sort of brilliant idea of chores. And then this one, again, is him cleaning the roof of where he was staying, living at the time. So now on to Braco. This large piece, what he did was he just picked up a passerby and asked, could he photograph them? And they obviously agreed. And so he made it into a single piece, and then the certificate is here. He did this in Berlin in '76. Then other works he did are these marble plaques, which have marvelous statements on them. And we had one in a couple of art fairs, and it was amazing how many people just stood. We had them on the floor and stood over them and were photographing them. Then we have 4 photographs. Most of the pieces he does were photographs. And so here he puts a carton of milk or something on the road, waits for it to be run over, and then photographs the result. Again, here he places a bit of paper on the tram, and the tram goes over it. All the works, these works, the 4 editions of 5, and we sold one of these to the Kroller-Müller Museum in Otterlo a year or so ago. Again, you can see what happens. And then there's a little group of gouaches that he did in the early 1970s, which this could be a masterpiece series. And, you know, they're self-explanatory. They're enormously amusing, I think. Anyway, the show is on till the end of May, and I do hope that you can come and see it and see our amazing new premises. We're so thrilled to be back on the ground floor, and already we're getting a lot more people in the gallery, which is very thankful, and we appreciate all of you coming to see us. Thank you.